The signs of a consumer slowdown continue to mount, at least in certain corners. Norwegian Cruise Line Holdings, Carnival, and Royal Caribbean all boosting their year-end outlooks amid record-setting demand. Harry Sommer, Norwegian Cruise Line Holdings President and Chief Executive Officer, joins us now. Harry, thank you so much for being with us. I want to just start with what you're seeing in terms of whether demand is sort of plateauing, accelerating, or falling off. Just a touch on the margins.
Well, good morning, and thank you for having me on. Demand in the cruise industry right now is great. We're very, very happy with what we're seeing with the consumer. Keeping in mind that the demographic that we're pursuing is mostly upper class demographic across our three brands. And those consumers certainly continue to have money to spend and are continuing to spend it on cruise vacations.
At this point, Harry, I guess there's this key question of how divorced the upper echelons are from the rest of the economy. Essentially, do you find that your business is somewhat insulated from a cycle where you have consumers that aren't necessarily feeling the same kind of pinches elsewhere?
So I think there's a number of criteria, a number of things that really do help insulate us, as you mentioned. Number one, we are fishing in the upper demographic pool, as I mentioned, but we also have a very long lead time for bookings. So unlike hotels and air, which are dependent on a lot of close-in bookings, our average booking curve is 6-8 months into the future. So we have tremendous visibility into trends. If there is ever any weakness, and we're not seeing any, but every once in a while there's a few sailings that perhaps are doing less well, we can make adjustments 6-8 months in advance, small adjustments that put things back on track. It's really a unique feature of the cruise industry that allows us to continue to have more stable and higher returns. Fundamentally, cruises is a tremendous value. Our average yield, versus a hotel ADR is anywhere from 30 to 40% below what they'd spend on a hotel. And I think consumers, whether times are good, but especially if times are less good, certainly recognize that value, and that accrues to us. I mean, the last couple of quarters, we've reported 8 and 6% year-over-year yield increases compared to last year, where we're guiding to another 6% for Q3. We see that as a very strong consumer.
Harry, I just wonder about prices. I mean, are you in a position where you might even be able to raise prices given that level of demand?
I think, yes, great question. I think what we've shown in our financials for the last few quarters is pricing has been going up. We're guiding in Q3 and Q4 for prices to go up. I mean, you may imagine, with the long lead time I described, Q3 and Q4 are substantially sold out. So we have great visibility, and we stand behind the guidance we just issued a few weeks ago in our quarterly earnings call. Pricing will absolutely go up in both quarters, and it looks that way for 2025 certainly as well.
Harry, I want to get your thoughts as a CEO of a major company. Lisa mentioned this fascinating statistics of CEOs being let go from companies at an unprecedented pace going back to 2017. I wonder how you think about this moment in time. You're obviously the CEO of a company that's successful, but when you look among your peers, again, not just the cruise industry, but CEOs of large companies, has something changed that there is more pressure in a way there hasn't been before?
So I'm guessing there's always been pressure in the CEO role, but I think we're in a world of a rapidly evolving consumer. Tastes change over time, and consumers change over time, and we have to be constantly thinking and innovating in the future. I mean, right now, as an example, we're planning for ship deliveries through 2036. I mean, we have to have a pretty good crystal ball and a pretty good feel for what the consumers are going to want for, years, even a decade into the future. And it's really important to keep that future focus if we're going to be successful.
Harry, we had the CEO of Marriott on yesterday, and they're talking about Marriott yachts now. Are you concerned on the higher-end consumer, the competition that's coming into the industry?
I've always said that our competition is not other cruises. I mean, cruises in general make up about 2 to 3% of the overall vacation market. We're keenly focused on what hotels do in general. And we believe cruising is a wonderful vacation alternative to hotels. I mentioned before the huge gap in value. We're priced 30 to 40% below a hotel. But also, hotels have their asset-light model as being a competitive advantage in their industry. It's also a competitive disadvantage because they lose control of the product. We own all 32 ships in our fleet, fully own them, 100% ourselves. We have 13 more ships on order, by the way, and we can ensure that we deliver an outstanding, consistent product across the fleet. And I think guests are beginning to realize that that consistency is something you don't always get in the hotel space.
I've been on cruises before. When you get on board, all the extras you have to spend more on, especially things like some of these excursions. Are you seeing consumers start to ratchet back some of that spending?
Not at all. Our onboard spend continues at record levels. We get weekly reports, as our ships travel of our 55 to 60,000 guests that we're carrying at any given time. Onboard spend shows no cracks. We're very, very happy. It's another advantage. I mentioned the long lead time that consumers have in making bookings. So they're paying for their cruises 4 or 5 months in advance. By the time they come on the cruise, that money's spent. It's already paid for off their credit card. They come on the ship with a full wallet ready to spend more. And unlike hotels, where people don't really stay at a hotel other than to sleep, people stay on the ship to do everything: shop, spa, casino. They arrange their shore tours for us. So we really get a much larger share of the consumer's wallet on the ship as well.
It is literally a captured audience. Harry Sommer, thank you so much for being with us. Harry Sommer, Norwegian Cruise Line Holdings President and Chief Executive Officer.